Let's go to Tel Aviv now. Joining us live is Senior Advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Mark Regev. Mark, good to see you this morning. I do want to start off with Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza. Medical infrastructure there appears to be disintegrating there and other hospitals as well. Is enough being done to help?
Definitely. We've offered to evacuate all the patients from the hospital. We did it with an adjacent hospital, a Rantissi hospital. We're willing to do it at Shifa too. We've also bought petrol for the generators, especially for the babies there in the incubators, where they said there was a lack of energy. But unfortunately, Hamas has prevented any humanitarian solution. From their point of view, I think they want pictures of suffering. They think that helps their propaganda. And so we've come with proposals, once again, to help the situation, to help people either leave, evacuate the site, or to bring in the power that they need for the fuel. And in both cases, Hamas has closed the door.
Are hospitals being deliberately targeted?
By Hamas, yes. Hamas has
or by Israel, by the IDF?
No, we don't, Peter, we don't target hospitals. We target Hamas, who are our enemies. We don't target hospitals, but you have to know that Hamas has deliberately, in a premeditated plan going back years, they've built their terrorist infrastructure underneath hospitals. So our forces are going surgically, house to house, in that neighborhood to destroy the Hamas military installations. We had a hostage, an 85-year-old woman who was released. And she talked about a spiderweb of subterranean tunnels underneath the hospital that spread out for kilometre after kilometre underground in Gaza. And they connect a command and control centre under the main hospital to missile launching sites, to arms depots, to other Hamas fortifications.
Yeah.
And if we're going to destroy the Hamas military machine, we have to deal with that network of underground structures.
Sure. I mean, just further to that point, though, and we saw the images that the IDF released yesterday of, those military installations there. You saw those cache of weapons that were held in that children's hospital as well. So where do you draw the line, though? I mean, if Hamas militants are hiding or operating within hospitals or close to hospitals, is there a distance where you will say no?
Of course, we make a clear distinction between a legitimate target, which is Hamas and its military machine, and between the civilian population, Peter, who are they're not the targets of our operation. On the contrary, we want to do everything we can.
So how close would you get? Sorry to interrupt, Mark. So how close would you get if you were to launch an attack? If you saw an operative close to a hospital, what's the distance where you would allow a strike to take place?
So if you can be surgical, if you can do a micro attack and just take out the target and you won't have collateral damage, you go ahead and hit the target.
It doesn't matter how close it is.
That's the rules. It doesn't matter how close it is. If you can eliminate the Hamas terrorist without hurting other people, you go for that target. That's for sure. I can also tell you, though, that the terrible pictures coming out of the hospital, it reminds me of other situations we've seen around the world, like in Iraq, where Saddam Hussein used to take people to hospitals and say, look, the terrible West there, they're starving and killing Iraqi children, right? And everyone knew that he was hoarding the food and the money and the medicine. Hamas is the same. We've proposed serious, practical humanitarian solutions for the people in the hospital. It's Hamas that's closed the door. It's almost as if they want the people of Gaza to suffer for their extreme agenda. It's a terrible thing they're doing.
The UN has once again called for a humanitarian ceasefire overnight. Mark, are you any closer to even entertaining that thought beyond the pauses that are currently in place?
So you're right, we've got humanitarian pauses in place to make sure that food and medicine and water can come in for the people, but a full ceasefire will only do for the release of hostages. As you know, they're holding 239 people, including, just so your viewers know, 32 children, of them babies and infants. What sort of crazy people, what sort of criminal people kidnap babies? But let's leave that aside. If we were to get a release of our hostages, we would entertain the idea of a ceasefire. Otherwise, we're going to continue the struggle against Hamas until we defeat them, until we dismantle their military machine.
Okay, so what happens if they release all the hostages, but Hamas still exists? You're not talking about the end of conflict there, would you, if Hamas still exists?
No, well, let's be frank. The people of Israel, probably like the people of Australia, we've taken a decision. We refuse to live next to this terrorist enclave any longer. I mean, the people in southern Israel live in fear of terrorists crossing the frontier in the middle of the night and butchering their children, and no one should have to live in that fear. So we've taken a decision. We're going to end Hamas's rule in Gaza. We're going to dismantle its military machine. And the truth is, that's not just good for Israel, that's good for Gaza too. Why? Because Gaza has been ruled now for 16 years by Hamas. And what has Hamas brought the people of Gaza? Just pain and suffering and poverty. That's what they've brought them. They deserve better too. The people of Gaza deserve better than this bunch of extreme terrorists that have run their land.
Okay, Mark Regev, that's a senior advisor to Benjamin Netanyahu. Thanks for your time, Mark. We'll talk to you again soon.